The warmest of greetings to you, and welcome to Happily Ever Teaching. This is the podcast to help you enthrall your learners in every subject under the sun using the best teaching method known to science, storytelling. To do this, we feature special guest educators who are passionately keen for your children to become amazing and successful human beings. I am storyteller Chip Cahoon, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Rob. I teach a Key Stage 2 class just outside Milton Keynes, and I've worked throughout all the Key Stages.
Hi, I'm Helen. I also teach just outside Milton Keynes, and I'm currently teaching reception in Year 1.
And today we are exploring learning outcomes in physical education and computing, with a witty folktale found all around the world, adapted by us to be set in medieval England. You can listen to the story by downloading our sister podcast, Fables and Fairy Tales, or search our website, epictales.co.uk, for The Dragon's Heart. There you'll find a video of me telling the story that you can share with your children. And if you sign up as an Epic Educator, you'll also get a copy as an ebook or paperback illustrated by the magnificent Maria Coelho, as well as the full audiobook for you to download at any time. There are even some tips for telling the story yourself, and a whole heap of resources to go with the lesson ideas we're about to discuss, including any extra lesson ideas that we don't have time to fit into this podcast. Right now, though, let's continue our discussion with Rob and Helen, Sir Phys.Ed and the U-Dragon here, and we don't often get to talk about computing.
We don't.
It's also
It's exciting.
probably less often that people would think about computing right next to the age of chivalry. So, Rob, please do tell us how you have discovered some computing for ages 7 to 11 in this story.
I've discovered some computing kind of linked to some of the other ideas I've had throughout the week, thinking about the route that Sir Phys.Ed takes, particularly with the board game, you're looking at the route, but also you could plan or you could write the code for either your Scratch character or your Bebot or any other computing or coding thing that you've got to plot.
For creating an algorithm.
To plot the route that it's going to take, creating your algorithm. But then I would also set the challenge of asking my children, especially if they're older, say 10 to 11 year olds, if you're going through the sections of the route which are trickier, if you want to go quicker, how are you going to get your bot to move more quickly?
Okay.
So I know, for example, my class recently, we've been exploring one of the Lego computing packages, and it's got variable speeds that you can attach to the motor that's included with it. It's a bit trickier with a Bebot, but you could say, okay, well, as we're going across the squelchy, icy cold river, I want to move quicker so that I don't have as much on me. I'm not in for as long. So you would have to program your bot to move more quickly. If you are using a Bebot, it would be a great opportunity to use a map that may have been created by one of your colleagues or by your class to give your Bebot a route to follow. So yeah, I think it would be a really good opportunity just to have a go at creating your code, your algorithm for how to get from the castle to the dragon's home, and then you could do the return journey avoiding those things. Can you plot the route avoiding the parts where you got stuck or sanded or covered in sharp spiny grass?
Yeah, I was going to say, because if you're plotting a journey to sort of replicate Sir Phys.Ed's story, then presumably you'd actually program him to be travelling slower through, say, the muddy areas, so that's where it slows down. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. But so you could replicate it, but then you could say, okay, we're going to try the journey again, but we're going to get to the river, and you're thinking, oh, I've got to the river. I can tell it's cold. I want to move through this quickly.
Oh, I see.
To spend less time in it.
I was thinking you've got the opportunity to have a bit of a test here and see whether it would have been quicker to go through all of those patches where you're having to travel slower but it's more direct, or whether you are able to go faster but the journey is longer. The
computations are endless.
This is So a really good activity you could do with the early years as well, the one that Rob's just described with using B-bots to plot a route for Sir Phys.Ed. Something I quite often do because we have B-bot mats at school, but it's very easy to create your own one with the squares the right size. And I quite often do that with different topics, and in this case, different stories. Just create a map with the children of where all the different features that he walked through or squelched through or dragged his feet through are. Yeah, so do that with early years as well.
Fantastic. And that means as well that you're starting to bring in some different subjects, of course, your geography and your DT. And we've sort of looked in the history about creating coats of arms and in the DT for creating hobby horses. And I thought one obvious link from that to the physical education, which is another subject we maybe don't cover on this podcast as often as we should, would be to saddle up your hobby horses, grab hold of your coats of arms and go on a joust. We briefly touched upon it, didn't we? But have you guys ever tried contactless jousting?
Never. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
It's as simple as putting a rag in your pocket, usually the pocket that is closest to the person who you are charging against. And literally the only rule that you've got is that you have to keep on going forwards. You can't go back. So you basically then charge at each other and the job is to try and whip the cloth out of the other person's pocket without losing your own. And like I say, you can't go backwards. So once you've gone past them, that's it. If you don't have the cloth, then you've lost. And maybe
I love this idea.
Maybe both people come away with their cloths. Maybe both people fall off their horses, symbolized by the cloth coming out their pocket. So there are all sorts of ways you can then go on from there, whether to give it another round or to do what they would have done in proper jousting and give them inflatable swords or something to continue the battle. Gonna leave that up to you to design, really.
Would you use space hoppers as well, Chip?
You can also do it on space hoppers. Yeah, I haven't done that myself because they're harder for me to cut around than hobby horses. But yeah, certainly, I don't know how easy space hoppers are to make either. But yeah, plenty of opportunity for it.
I'm definitely going to do that next time. Next time I have a class that's being knights and creating hobby horses, we're definitely going to do contactless jousting. It sounds fantastic.
So a good way to practice your attacking and defending skills.
Yes.
Put alongside the banquet that you were talking about when we were looking at the Huff McTuff story, or even the Lindworm story from just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, plenty of opportunities to turn your classroom into a medieval court. What was the activity that you had for your 4 to 7-year-olds, though, thinking of PE?
Slightly bizarre, but I just had this image in my head. I was looking at the different subjects and the story, and this image in my head came up of those races that people do, those Tough Mudder races. I had just had this image of Sir Phys.Ed going through all of these obstacles and getting in a terrible mess. So I just thought of a Tough Mudder race, obviously not an actual, at the actual level that people do it, just creating with your children, almost like a cross-country type run with obstacles for them to do, crawling under things, climbing over things, going in and out of different obstacles that would just bring in a range of PE skills. It would be a lot of fun as well. And it's something you could do with the old years as well. You could just make theirs more challenging.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, this is very similar to a program that Epic Tales is designing at the moment for schools, which is to basically create an obstacle course, but do it within the context of a story. So you're sending children out on this adventure as you are telling the story.
Okay.
And giving them all sorts of fitness activities to do, which match up with the kind of obstacles that the characters are coming up against. I mean, it is something that you do automatically with something like We're Going on a Bear Hunt. True, you get children to stand up and start imagining what it's like to be trudging through the tall grass or whatever, and it's something that we do in the video for this story as well. We get the children to really think about pushing the branches aside and feeling the heat as they're going across the sand and those sorts of things. So it's just kind of taking that sort of element but doing it in your gym, I'd imagine, on a larger space where you can actually go for a run and you can actually spread out and travel as you are doing those movements. So a really fun way of keeping fit. That's sadly all we have time for in this episode, folks. If you'd like to talk to us about anything you've heard in this podcast, or if there's a subject you are soon to teach that you'd like us to cover, you can find us on social media using @TeachHappily, or leave us a review using your favourite podcast app. Please also share this podcast with your colleagues and help us start a story-led revolution in classrooms around the world, so children everywhere can learn in a way that's effective, memorable, and enjoyable all at the same time. Tomorrow, Sir Fuladred and the U-Dragon will help us teach art. But right now, it only remains for us to say cheerio, and we hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio! And we hope to hear your story soon.